What's up, guys? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more of our videos. Also, make sure you follow us all over social media so you don't miss any of our content or show announcements. All right, Knicks-Pistons. As wrong as I've been about the Lakers-Wolves series, I've been pretty right about this one. The Pistons have been right there every single game. They led by 8 in the fourth quarter of Game 1. They obviously won Game 2. They were down by 3 with 5 minutes left in Game 3, and they led by 11 today in the fourth quarter of Game 4. But over and over again, the Knicks have been able to out-execute them at the end of these games because they are the smarter and more experienced team. Malik Beasley hits a 3 with 8.5 minutes left. That puts the Pistons up 11. From that point forward, the Knicks played at their ceiling. They knew they needed that game. They played peak Knicks basketball, while the Pistons on the other end made mistake after mistake after mistake. The Knicks were able to get offense on several fronts. Mikal Bridges actually started the run with 2 really tough movement threes out of the right corner in a game where he couldn't make a shot to save his life. Hit 2 massive ones in the right corner. Jalen Brunson got into a great rhythm after coming back from an ankle injury he suffered right along the sideline in front of the scorer's table. He's really solved Dennis Schroeder at this point in the series. He's figured out that he's just too big and strong for him. He had an easy layup on the left side where he just used a right-to-left crossover to get Dennis pinned on his right side and then just use that shoulder to create separation. Then he had a drive on the right wing where he literally went through Dennis's chest for a floater from about 7-8 feet. But he has solved the Dennis Schroeder matchup. He beat Cade Cunningham with a simple jab step move to get into the basket. He gave Tim Hardaway Jr. a couple of tough buckets. He had a step back going to his left on the three-point line. He had another little short shot along the left baseline. Brunson was fantastic down the stretch, but it was actually Karl-Anthony Towns who saved the day and stole a win for the Knicks, hitting 3 jumpers. One was a simple catch and shoot off of a dumb overhelp from Jalen Duren that Jalen Brunson just kind of baited him into, just stared at the basket and pretended like he was going to ISO. Jalen just kind of sat there on the block and just was super keyed in on Brunson, and Jalen just rifled a pass across the court, wide open catch and shoot 3 for Karl-Anthony Towns, knocks it down, just capitalizing on a bad defensive mistake from Jalen Duren. But then he hit an insane left shoulder fadeaway, just like he did in Game 3, this time over Jalen Duren, so over a tougher contest. It was probably even tougher than the shot he made in Game 3. Just insane right there along the baseline. Then he hits this step back 3 over Jalen Duren, a little shot clock kind of rescue possession, ends up in the late clock situation, and hits a 28-footer off of a step back against a great contest from Jalen Duren. Just 2 insane shots that turned that loss into a win for the Knicks. The Knicks scored 26 points over the final 8 minutes to steal Game 4 and take a 3-1 lead heading back to New York. Here's a simple list for you guys of the execution errors that Detroit made down the stretch. Their first possession after Mikal Bridges hit a 3 in that right corner to cut the lead down to 8, they ran an ISO for Asar Thompson against Mikal Bridges. And anybody who watched that whole game knows Asar Thompson was really struggling in that game to do anything on offense. He was in no position to command that possession. They gave it to him and he missed. That's an execution error from the vets on the floor, putting Asar Thompson in that position. Then Asar Thompson threw the ball out of bounds. He cut to the basket off the right slot. Cade dropped it off to him, and he tried to make a connective pass to Malik Beasley, but he just didn't look before he threw it and rifled the ball out of bounds. JB Bickerstaff finally puts Dennis Schroeder in for him. So 2 big mistakes from Asar Thompson to start the run. Jalen Duren gets a defensive rebound and makes the classic young center mistake of bringing the ball down. Brings the ball down. Josh Hart comes in, swipes it off his leg, off the ensuing baseline out of bounds. Mikal Bridges comes off of a screen. Malik Beasley gets caught on it. Jalen Duren, again, when he sees a shooter coming off a screen, is supposed to be up at the level of the screen. He's way back in the paint. Mikal Bridges gets another clean look right where he just made one in the right corner, knocks it down. So literally 2 Jalen Duren mistakes turned what should have been a stop into 3 points for the Knicks. And again, I'm not trying to pick on Jalen Duren or any of these guys, Asar Thompson. I'm just pointing out the obvious fact that these are young players, and young players are going to struggle with attention to detail in big spots like this, right? They gave up an easy transition take foul to Josh Hart on a really bad offensive possession where Cade just stood out by the logo while Mikal Bridges was face guarding him, and he just watched Dennis Schroeder and Malik Beasley have a rough offensive possession, which that's fine. Rough offensive possessions are part of the playoffs. It's super physical. Sometimes you just get exhausted. That's not the problem. The problem is both Schroeder and Beasley were slow to get back. You can't compound the problem by not getting back. It turned into like a 3-on-1, and Cade had to just wrap up Josh Hart. Cade turned it over trying to split a ball screen. That's a little spoiler alert. He does it again later in the game. On Cat's first three, like I talked about, Jalen Duren is sinking all the way into the paint. That's just dumb. That was the whole reason why they had Tobias Harris on Cat originally to begin with, was to avoid that specific problem. Duren just struggles to guard shooting bigs, which is why he shouldn't have been in that position in the first place. That's on JB Bickerstaff. Like they need to make sure that they have their matchup set up in a way that they're not going to give up that sort of problem, especially since Cat was frying Jalen Duren anyway on an island. It's not like you're trying to protect Tobias Harris there in any way. Cat hits the fadeaway over Jalen Duren that cuts the lead to 2. Cade tries to ISO OG Anunoby, which is probably the worst matchup he could attack on the floor. We talked a lot about that. Jalen Brunson has been much more surgical about being deliberate to get to the matchups he wants. Cat hits a 3 to put the Knicks up. Cade tries to split a double team again. Josh Hart is right there, digging down off the strong side corner. And Cade just tries to split the double team again and turns it over again. And it was just mistake after mistake after poor decision after poor decision. But this is just the reality of the process of developing as a basketball team. In order to win at the highest levels, attention to detail is required. And young, inexperienced teams have a habit of missing those details, especially in their first few playoff runs. It's all good. Valuable lessons are being learned. It's just an explanation for why, even though Detroit presented so many problems for the Knicks over the course of the season, I had a feeling the Knicks were going to pull this series out. Last note on the Knicks, I wanted to shout out OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. Neither of them had big scoring nights, although Mikal hit a couple of huge threes in the right corner, but those guys defended about a half a dozen one-on-ones against Cade Cunningham down the stretch. And they didn't get beat off the dribble a single time. They forced him into a bunch of tough, contested, pull-up mid-rangers, turnaround jump shots out of the post. Brunson was getting to the rim, and New York's defenders were forcing Cade into jump shots, which has variance. You might miss them, right? Cade's a good mid-range jump shooter, but he might miss them. There's way less variance right at the rim. Jalen hit some tough jumpers. That step back to his left, a side step 3 off of against Tim Hardaway Jr. off the left wing. That's an incredibly tough shot, but he was at the rim. And that really is the experience element. Like, Cat played 3 playoff series last year. Jalen Brunson played 4 playoff series in the last 2 years. This team has just a lot of guys that have been in a lot of serious basketball over the last few years. That gives them an advantage in this sort of situation. Looking like the Knicks are going to close things out in 5 on Tuesday.